for our second playoff series. Straight out the gate, Skarner is taken off the table. Foxtrot, what would you like to see in terms of the rest of these bans or even picks?
I wonder whether or not we're going to get some kind of Xayah Rakan bot lane. We actually haven't seen too much of that so far in the EU Masters.
And we won't see it again.
And there it is, bam, so Xayah's going down, so yeah, no Xayah Rakan today. I feel like Misfits Academy are somewhat unique in the sense that I wouldn't attribute any specific power picks to their success. I mean, to be fair, the only game they've lost so far, they actually had Swain. So obviously power picks are not even their strong suit. So I think that, but that is a strength in itself where you have the diversity in the draft. You know, you can pick the Skarner on the flick, you can pick the Kazakhs, we saw him play Rengar domestically as well. So Misfits are a bit hard to read in that sense.
I think, unless I'm mistaken, by the way, that Swain is a 25% win ratio despite being 100% presence. It now finds himself in his ban. With Zoe taken off the table along with Sion and Caitlyn, opens up for a near insta-lock Rise. Sheepy, what comes next?
Anivia. No, I'm just kidding. I would like to have that matchup again. It's interesting. They have banned 2 ADCs, so there's right now on the table, of course, Tristana, you know, and Kai'Sa, which has also been first picked in occasion. Braum is being picked up as well. I think this champion has seen already 32 games of play in the entire tournament, so that's and Trundle as well. It feels like those champions are just a staple.
We're in the full tournament meta, aren't we? I mean, Special has run 3 different champions in his games. The Swain, the Syndra, and the Azir. Azir and Syndra both up available if he wants to go that route. Into Rise, is there an option you like or dislike there?
I mean, you need to play really, really aggressive into the Rise, and with you know, not recent changes, but Rise right now is just such a strong champion overall, so you need to really decide if you want to go for this kind of coin flip matchup. I think overall, outperforming a Rise right now in this meta is relatively hard. You need to sacrifice a lot in the other regions, like either early game pressure.
That's a locked-in Lee Sin, by the way.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, what do I think of that? Well, it's interesting that you usually have these aggressive junglers into Trundle, but Lee Sin is way below what you would think coming out so early. Kazakhs, Nidalee are 2 very common pickups into this. And Lee Sin we saw be played by Tinks, but that was when Kazakhs and Nidalee were banned.
I'm very surprised of the Lee Sin pick here.
Yeah.
I think it's very difficult to play it to Trundle because he steals your AD and then you have Red Smite on top of you, so I mean, especially blind, like you pick it into a Trundle Braum, there's no lanes that right now have been picked where you just say, okay, this is an easy gank for me. You know, they didn't pick like a immobile ADC without any kind of, you know, escape or something. So I think this is very ballsy. They really, you know.
Look, yesterday, Kliktech, they went for the Renekton top lane, Olaf jungle. They took that into Origin because they had to win. Yeah, theoretically,
kind of.
right? It got close if it wasn't for Nicola maybe getting caught out in some of those later team fights. So let's see what Stefan can do. His Olaf yesterday, a little slow to start. Worked out in the end. The answer, by the way, for that mid lane matchup is going to be the Cassio into Rise, the more traditional counter. I use that word a little loosely. Obviously, that Zoe was removed from him. That's a targeted ban. And talking about bans, Morgana Rakan close out phase 2 for Misfits, Camille, and 1 left for Kliktech.
I mean, they are different support. I mean, Misfits is just banning out the supports. Kliktech right now just restricting the ADC pool as well.
I'm surprised Alistair isn't one of these bans, personally, for Misfits, because Eden Prietel, we even saw in that clip that almost set up the whole kind of comeback for Kliktech. He dove in onto Forgiven. Forgiven popped his spell shield thinking he was going to get comboed, and he just held it. Like 2 seconds later, bam, pops the Pulverize and catches Forgiven. Eden Prietel has played so well on that Alistair, and I feel like, especially on the Rakan specifically, like, Xayah's already taken off the board. You know it's going to go, it would be Varus Rakan. That's not as strong, in my opinion, as Alistair would be there, personally.
So let's see if Kliktech decides to lock it in. Phase 2 now. Ezreal was taken. I was surprised to see Tristana make it all the way to phase 2 bans. Has been one of those absolute premier AD carry picks. Kliktech, I think, still leaning a little bit into this mid-game power spike style. The Gnar going to do fairly well in lane. Can definitely join and come to play with the Rise and Lee Sin. And we'll see what Eden decides to lock in. Got that Alistair available if he wants it.
I think Kliktech right now is just trying out a lot of stuff. They play like 1-3-1 style. They have the Lee Sin for the early game. I have no clue how successful this can be. This really only depends on how aggressive and how much they're pushing the early game. But if they are just sitting back here and you know, let Trundle pressure the Lee Sin, then this is not going to happen. And we have a Zillion.
All right. Well, that wasn't necessarily what I would expect, but I do like Rise Zillion as a combo as well. Speeding up the Rise, that's kind of scary. But yeah,
that caught me off guard. I did not anticipate the
Zillion
Zillion.
into Braum is a good pick because if he shields up, you can get the double stun. You know, it like makes sense. And some team compositions, if you play an aggressive jungler, it makes especially sense, like a Rengar or something. You just, you know, let the Rengar jump in, revive him. He already used all his cooldowns and gets his cooldowns back. I have not seen it exactly with this kind of team comp, where I don't really 100% see, you know, the utility aspect helping a lot. You know, the Rise or the Boros or the Gnar. But honestly, you know, it might work. It's definitely okay for lane, and if he's a good player with it, you know, like he can make it work. Definitely.
I really like this last pick from Shikari as well. Shikari, for me, is just a role player on Misfits. Whatever you want him to do, he'll do it. And Ornn, the engage on Ornn, if you look at the carries from Kliktech, you got Varus, you got Rise, there's a squishy Zillion there as well. If that Ornn Call of the Forge God comes down, it's gonna do a lot of work, and that's kind of a scary engage, honestly, if you're on the side of Kliktech. So like Sheepy mentioned, 1-3-1's all this wacky combo that they've got here. Pyro was talking to some of the Kliktech's analysts earlier as well, and they said they are not afraid to break the meta, and they've certainly done a little bit of it here today.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I need to get to predictions as we are running out of time. Rise was first picked, 87% presence, one of the most popular champions at EU Masters that only has a 50% win rate. The response, Cassiopeia, 46% presence, but it has a 62% win rate. Knowing the Cassio counted Rise, Sheepy, who will win this game and why?
I think Misfit Academy. I think what Kliktech
UK flag here, mate, if you want to.
I think, you know, what they drafted Kliktech there is extremely interesting, and if they make it work, you know, then applaud them, and this is such a great game. But honestly, it's so difficult, and I think the other team, Misfit Academy, has just a sledgehammer, and they will.
Foxtrot?
Yeah, I feel like Misfits Academy have the edge in the draft. If this game doesn't go well for Kliktech, I think they'll draft much more meta next game.
Okay, if it doesn't go well, they don't have many opportunities for that not to go well. We're just about ready to jump into the game, so Pyrotechnics and Celtic Tiger, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. My goodness, unafraid to break the meta indeed, and it does seem right now that Kliktech, they don't care about it at all. They're going to go ahead and take some things differently. The Gnar up in the top, Militz is back on his rise. I like to see it from these guys.
Yeah, and I think it's aggressive lanes, which I like. I'm looking forward to seeing if they can use that, try get some push priority from them, and set up the 1-3-1 that Sheepy was talking about. As we've seen a lot of teams draft 1-3-1s, and we've seen very few teams actually execute them successfully.
Yeah, that's kind of the tough thing here if you're Kliktech. These guys, they definitely come into this facing up against a very tough opponent. I know the analyst desk touched on how they might be, you know, exposed, by the way, up against a UK team especially. It was XL Esports that really set them behind. Everyone wants to think about that Origin game, but that was quite close. It was XL that really shut them down in drafts.
Yeah, and I think you have to look at it now as Misfits are the team that have always had XL's number back in the UK. You got to be worried as Kliktech. If you've been beaten twice really heavily by XL, Misfits are stronger. Are they coming in harder? And I think Kliktech, like, they have a very interesting style. They like to team fight. They like to go aggressive. And that's why I kind of like this draft from them with the Lee Sin. I worry that Misfits will just be that much cleaner and be able to execute their comp much easier.
Yes, indeed. All right, so we're a minute into this game. As they just hit the rift, we saw all that load up there, and it's no shenanigans to start things off. I want to talk about this Lee Sin, though. Stefan picked this with so many junglers up and available, and it was into the blind Trundle. What about this really fits the composition that Kliktech's trying to build?
I think it leans into Kliktech's strength of they want to go with early aggression, on top of the fact that we've talked a lot about how Trundle has many good meta matchups. The carry matchups are one of his lesser strong points. You know, if he's up against the Kazakhs, the Lee Sin, the Nidalee, he really starts to struggle in that 1v1. Lee Sin being one of those carries gives him that bit more of a struggle, which means Stefan should be able to have more presence in the early game.
And early game does seem to be the Kliktech strategy. These guys, you know, really focus on trying to get their laners ahead early, but it actually is a flick that's going in. This is a level 2 gank.
I mean, if he can find it, this would absolutely be amazing for them.
That's the red buff. Oh, insta-flash from Militz. Not even going to mess around there. Okay, you gotta call hashtag worth, though, because all he did was walk in and he forced a flash.
And it's not like he even gave up presence in his own jungle. He can go now towards his own blue buff. Smart play from Afflict. Very early on, we were talking about how Lee Sin, you know, should have the advantage. Afflict makes sure he's known before that can happen.
Well, we'll see if there's a return gank towards that mid lane. Melitza running the open spellbook, starting off with the heal in addition to the flash on cooldown.
I think the big thing for me that I want to touch on for Misfits is that they looked like their early game was very weak domestically, but then they've come to this group stage, and after their Millennium game, their early game has been their best point, and from that they've just transitioned into a very quick mid-game and end.
Well, let's see if Kliktech can make the early game even stronger for themselves. Special here getting rooted up, and in goes Stefan around the back. The snake flashing, slithering away, flash forward, follow through on the Q, and it's first blood for Melitza.
And again, we talked about how the Lee Sin should have an early gank, and they're really dragging me around back and forth at these points. I like that Kliktech have executed on one of their win conditions to start this game. Can they keep form?
Looking for a good start, though. Both junglers very active in that mid lane. We haven't even talked about these other lanes here. You can see the Gnar, as expected, kind of pushing into Shikari's Ornn up towards the top side. That means he might be able to roam early on, and this is exactly what the Kliktech comp want to do, get ahead in those laning, in the laning phase and just kind of take it to Misfits Academy.
And part of this is in the draft. They knew that the Ornn was coming because the Braum had already been picked. You can't pick the Ornn yourself, knowing that that's what they're going for. So they go, okay, we'll pick the Gnar that has a good lane matchup into Ornn.
Still, though, means it's a little easier to gank, I suppose, if the Gnar can time out his hops, he can get away from the Trundle ganks. But you mentioned the Braum. I want to talk a little bit about this, too, because we saw the Zilean coming in answer to it from Eden Prietel. Why did they make this choice?
I think it's as Sheepy touched on in the desk. It guarantees you the stun, which all the way... It guarantees you the stun because when you shield up as Braum, you can quickly double bomb, and it'll just instant stun as long as you hit it in the right general area. With that, it plays into their kind of early to mid-game teamfight focus. If you can guarantee those stuns as the Zilean, that's a big AoE stun on top of the amount of damage this comp has.
Crossfair going to have a little hard of a time. So Stefan here once more hanging out in this brush. Special has no summoners. He's going to be backing away. This buys some time for Melitza to get the free farm on and start shoving the lane. We'll see if Afflict is able to answer as he moves out of his jungle, heading towards the bottom side of the map. Nicola and Eddie, they're pushed up here.
They have no wards.
Okay, there's the hop forward. Immediately, oh, nice dodge on the Winter's Bite. Eden Prietel zooming his way away, but the pillar's down. He's able to get right behind it. Afflict is turned back. The double bomb's on. This is a 2v3 here right now. Celtic Tiger flashing, igniting the heal, and here comes Stefan looking for Prosper. Afflict is gonna fall, and they look for more. Not gonna find it here, but 2-0 up for Kliktech 5 minutes into this game.
And just the execution there. The Zilean dodge is what I have to highlight there. Eden Prietel just managing to get out of the Winter's Bite. Beautiful, small, mechanical movements from this guy to get away.
And this is a huge strength for Kliktech. As Sheepy was pointing out, and Foxtrot was talking about, I spoke a little bit with their coach earlier today. He was talking about the team's strengths. One of them is the communication. These guys have been playing together for a long time, off and on. You know, they kind of had to reform to get back into the Balkan League last year, but they've been together ever since. Prior to that, they played for about 7 months together. They know each other inside and out. Even with the later addition of Eden Prietel, they just clearly have this coordination that is hard to beat, and once again, Special getting forced back in the mid.
Yeah, and I think you could see that coordination even against a team that has all moved into the same house. You think, okay, this is going to up our communication. We're going to be this really strong side in terms of that. Kliktech, though, with the greater experience and in terms of communication at the very least, showing up strong.
That's an interesting mismatch, too, the experience versus like the kind of access that Misfits Academy have. You know, being a part of the Misfits organization, being able to have access to that gaming house that they're currently occupying. Also, the fact that we don't often talk about like scrims and things. If you're a team from the Balkans and you're far and away the strongest, it's kind of hard to get that improvement. If you're Misfits Academy, you can scrim LCS level teams.
Yeah, on top of the fact that you're a much lower budget team coming from the Balkans, there isn't a huge amount of money in the scene, but Kliktech showing up so strong for a side that has very little financial backing.
And this is what's so impressive about them, right? It is kind of the Cinderella story. These guys had to fight their way through the play-ins. And I mean, that's the last time we saw Melitza on this rise kind of running amok. He's already 1 kill up in this game. I'm looking to see where the Lee Sin goes next.
What I love about this is it's what we originally highlighted from Kliktech's play. Stefan enabling his carries. Right now he goes for an early aggressive jungler knowing, yes, I'll fall off, but everyone else should have a better lane due to my presence.
Okay, look at this. Stefan steps forward, has to step back. Got to be careful when there's 2 on, but looks like the Ornn's coming to the party as well. Might have bit off a little more than he could chew there. The Lee Sin going to go down. He thought he had the outplay. He got outplayed himself.
Well, he's enabling some carries, unfortunately.
Just not the ones on this team.
A bit too aggressive, not respecting the fact that Miasma can completely shut down the Lee Sin, and just not paying attention to where Special was on the map.
Yeah, a little bit of an oversight there for the Kliktech jungler. Gold still, though, in the favor of them. Only about 400 or 500 here, thanks to those early couple of kills. Checking in with the CS differences. It's pretty much even across the board with the exception of that top lane. Sacre, as expected on the Gnar, kind of as you do, shoving in the Ornn over and over again, but he got the kill back.
That kill has actually put Ornn ahead in terms of gold, so that really hurts this Kliktech side, who are looking at this Gnar Ornn matchup as one of their shining lights of the early game that doesn't need to be focused.
Well, Stefan, let's see if he's able to atone for the mistake he made. Not going to go in looking for a flick this time, instead straight back to the red buff. And it was a very early start on the aggro. Honestly, we saw like so much action around this mid lane into the enemy jungle, and I feel like Kliktech realized, hold on a second, we don't need to be this crazy. Let's not get too high feet. It's only game 1 of a best of 3. They've slowed things down just a bit.
Yeah, I think especially after that kill has gone down for Stefan, it's probably time to consider, okay, let's actually temper this aggression. Let's look at how my lanes are, because if the Ryze had been given the chance to push up, he would have been able to respond just as well as Special, and 2v2 probably would have been a lot easier for him to escape from.
And it looks like Kliktech still making use of their map control, though, to take out this early Cloud Dragon. Stefan, Eden, and Nicola all comboing up on it. You can see Misfits Academy sniffing around, but not going to go for the contest, especially on just a Cloud. A little bit of extra speed boost, though, for Kliktech now.
Yeah, you can see here. It's just a slower fight. You got to watch Stefan in this early game. He is the one to watch, because the lanes by themselves aren't doing a huge amount. It's just, you know, relatively even CS, farming back and forth, the occasional trade, but realistically, it's all on the junglers to decide where the kills go down.
Yeah, and Afflict has been trying to match him too, right? Like, it's not like the Misfits Academy side have been standing idly by, but as you pointed out, this is one of the matchups that Trundle suffers in. Not often picked. We don't see the Lee Sin as much at this tournament, a handful of picks, but the Trundle being so common because everyone is trying to go for the likes of, you know, the other Predator junglers, the Olafs, the Skarner, and Afflict on that Trundle can counter match it, but Stefan was one step ahead of the curve. We'll see if it's enough.
Yeah, even the tank junglers that Trundle does so well into, now not coming through on this game. I think I like that, because we saw in our last series there how hard it can be for tank junglers to make their presence known if their team falls behind, and how hard it is for them to show up in the early game when they know they lose the jungle 1v1.
Very true. And you know, when you look at just the drafting, though, Kliktech, they've been far and away the outlier in just about every single one of these drafts. We never know what these guys are going to play next, because everyone has shown carry potential. Originally, it was Milica making some montage plays on this Ryze in the play-in stage. Then we saw Sacre stepping up on carries. Then we saw Stefan playing Kha'Zix and popping off. I know we don't say that very much. I get one a cast. But yeah, and then also Nicola Senpai. So it seems like everybody on this team has carry potential. It must make it hard, even for a team like Misfits Academy, to kind of prepare for it.
Yeah, and I think this specific draft is, you still don't know who exactly is going to be the carry. Every one of them still has that carry potential. Gnar, Ryze, Varus, all really good carries on top of course, the Lee Sin. So Kliktech, they have the versatility there. They have the 1-3-1 opportunity. They need to put themselves in a position where they have safety in those 1-3-1s.
Of course, it is worth pointing out, though, that when Kliktech did get out-drafted, it was another UK team that were able to do it, Excel Esports. I think you give a lot of credit to Coach Ferndog on his ability to really make those calls. Let's see if they can get that kickoff back on a Crossfair, turning it back around with the Glacial Fissure flashing. He's going to make it out alive, though. Kliktech spent a lot on him and couldn't finish the job.
Yeah, I don't think they should have kicked him that way. Gave him left him much closer to his tower. I think it might have just been a slight mechanical mistake there from Stefan.
A lot of movement, though, down towards the bottom again. Ping's flying. Stefan looking for a flick, trying to close the gap with Milica as well. These guys really just, they sniff out the kills and they go all in for them. They just can't always execute.
Yeah, and I think that they're struggling against that now. Misfits have drafted a much more meta comp that scales really well, and that's why we talked about the ease of them to execute on this.
Okay, there's the pillar, there's the chomp. Milica still walking it out, gets the Rune Prison. In goes the Lee Sin, immediately popping back. He's forced Afflict to use the Subjugate. That'll be all.
Yeah, even if that kick was available for Lee Sin, it would have been a bit dangerous to go forward. Again, we talked about how the miasma can make it very difficult for him to move around these fights. Very dangerous for him to play forward into that. Would have almost guaranteed the kill onto Cassiopeia without guaranteeing the kill onto the Trundle.
And that is the one champion you definitely don't want to give kills to in this game. Obviously, there's more than just that as a damage source, but Yeah, Kliktech, they need to make sure Special's kept down, and he's certainly one of the big carries for this Misfits team.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe, you know, while the Casio isn't their only damage source, certainly Special has been one of the big carries for Misfits, and it's very dangerous to allow him to pull ahead, specifically in this matchup between the Rise and the Cassiopeia. You tend to, it's pretty much a skill matchup, but once one starts to pull ahead, it can be very difficult to pull back, especially for the Rise against the Cassiopeia. As Quickshot noted, Cassiopeia having the higher win rate just due to the amount of single target damage it has in these lanes.
Very true. Still though, gotta put some faith in Milica. He hasn't been perfect every single game, but when he has really gone big, it has been on a champion like this Rise. Again, we saw it in the play-in stage, and it was a different caliber of teams, admittedly, that they were facing off against. But you don't make montage plays for nothing. This guy is one of the best players that the Balkan region has produced.
Yes, and I really like the fact he's picked up the Abyssal Mask over the Rod of Ages. It means that once he gets that 2-item spike, he should be winning out in the 1v1, on top of the fact that it means that it's going to be harder for Special to pull ahead just off flat damage alone.
Okay, it looks like Kliktech are going to opt to try to make the objective play here. Stefan soloing onto the Rift Herald. You can see Afflict hanging around in the mid. Milica not pushing too far out, doesn't have the ward down, has to know something's up. He's playing towards the safe side, or at least playing towards the side he's not blind on. It's going to be the farm trade. Here comes Afflict. Walking straight into the river he goes, and that's going to be it there. Once again, Rift Herald finally finished off Stefan. That's the power of the Lee Sin in the early game. This is something you can't do on those tank junglers.
And again, I want to lean back on the fact that Misfits' weaker portion in the UK scene was their early game. They were still able to make comebacks after they fell behind. It's been a different story, though, in this tournament. We saw once Millennium got ahead of them, they very much stayed ahead, but now it's nice play from Milica.
Don't show him your face here, Rise. Walking forward, Special no longer has that petrifying gaze. Stefan walks through. You see a lot of investment ward-wise towards the Dragon Pit here. Misfits Academy keen to pick up that one, but they're also keen to pick up Nicholas Senpai. He's caught all by himself here. Here comes Afflict. There's no AD carry there, but they do have the knock-up. There's a lot of damage. He's trying to walk it away, but he's stunned up, and Afflict is going to take him down. But let's see if we get some revenge here. It's the big gank squad coming through. Milica and Stefan a little bit low, actually getting turned around. This is turning into an all-out brawl here in the bottom side. Id Priatel looking for the push forward. Though. Here comes Special. Do they have the damage? Turning it around. It's going to be on Priatel picking up the kill. Milica, he's going to go down, but resurrected by the chrono shift of Id Priatel. Stefan trying to sniff around the side, flashing and dashing and running away. Here comes Special, going gold. Let's see if they're going to be able to take him down. Bombs are flying left and right. Looks like Crisper gets the outplay. That was absolute madness down here, but it's going to end the way of Kliktech. Double kill for the Rise.
You said Milica can go off on Rise, can be the big carry. He absolutely shows it there. Beautifully played from him.
4-0-1 now. That is disaster if you're Misfits Academy. Now we're going to check back up into the top. Sakurai pushing Shikari back. Oh, man, Celtic Tiger. Let's break that down again.
You could see here that Milica was just able to position himself around the fighter. Everything had already been forced from the Trundle and the Braum to get that kill onto Nicholas Senpai, sorry. From there, they immediately are going to go down to this Rise as he teleports in. But on top of that, you then have everyone else start to join the fight, and then it came down to the small decisions from Milica. But I feel like I could break it down all day. There's more objectives to come, and Misfits look like they're on control of this one. Let's take our own little break here and have a look. You can see everything was forced down, but no
time. We got the Dragon. Sorry, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to analyze a whole lot today, Celtic Tiger, because these teams are not keen to give even a single moment to breathe. It looks like, though, Misfits Academy did manage to secure the Dragon. Will they pay for it, though? Special does turn Milica to stone, but as he pops back up, running away. Let's see if they can collapse on him. Stefan here leading the charge. There's a Chains of Corruption looking for a Afflict. They've got the damage. Stefan getting turned around, though, by the Subjugate from the Trundle. Special Prosper coming back in. Sakurai, he's moving forward, unafraid. Flashing away is Shikari. No kills going the way of Kliktech, but they continue to muscle in and force everyone back.
Yeah, now they can go towards this bot tower. They've already taken the top tower during that last fight. As we saw, we expected the Gnar to continually have pressure, and with nothing being focused up there, they can now move that to get another tower lead.
But it's critical for Misfits Academy that they were able to polish off the Dragon before the fight started in earnest. They might lose a tower for it here, but that's an Infernal Drake. You mentioned the comeback potential that Misfits have been able to show, even in the Prem, when they were oftentimes finding themselves at a deficit in early games.
Yeah, but I now worry that Kliktech have looked a lot stronger than potentially some of the English teams. Not Excel, of course, but some of the other English teams.
Not excelling quite as much, apparently. Looks like towers are starting to drop like flies, though. That's going to be one down in the mid and the one in the bottom soon to follow. Kliktech opening up this map. 17 minutes into the game, getting that gold lead nice and heavy. Let's see, Prosper taking a lot of damage. Here goes Sakre. There's going to be the knockup from the Glacial Fissure. That's Mininar. He's not got the tank stats just yet. Grisberg pushing forward. Oh, the chrono shift on. Just when you think you got the kill, you get jebaited. But will it be Sakre that finds himself dead once again? The Meganar coming up, turning around onto Afflict. Oh, that forest damage. Not going to be enough, or is it? Nicholas Senpai with the final shot.
Nicholas Senpai just was not in that fight for so long, trying to finish off the tower as the Varus eventually managed to join it and just about takes Afflict out at the end of it. Nicely done from him and Kliktech as a whole.
These are some style plays from Kliktech. They clearly came prepared for today, and they have just not slowed down, not a single tick. However, Misfits Academy trying to do the same thing. Militza walking over the miasma, dodges away from the call of the Forge Gods. So, collapse from Misfits Academy once again thwarted.
Yeah, and you can see this is the long-range engage. They want to try force 5v5s, but Kliktech have been playing so much better around the map. They're able to respond to these plays quicker than all of Misfits can get there at once. If Misfits can slow this game down, they still do have a chance to find a team fight back in.
I don't know if you can slow this team down. You're going to have to rename the Kliktech after this game. 18.5 minutes. The goal lead is at about 6,500. Pillar, Stefan is stopped. Baron's going to be live in 1 minute and 15, but as they mentioned on the desk too, this is where the 1-3-1 starts to come in. The Gnar on the side lane. We haven't talked about him that much, but he's been quietly farming it up, and he's got himself a black cleaver on top of the Merc Treads and working his way towards even more tank stats. It's going to be hard for Shikari to really match him in this lane pressure.
Yeah, and the Frozen Mallet will come through relatively soon. From there, it'll be even harder for Shikari to walk up. And I think we expected, you know, Sakre has shown up even on non-tanks. He's consistently able to put up these good numbers, but they knew that the Ornn matchup was coming. So they decided to take the Gnar into the likely Ornn pick here. Use like that to maintain lane priority, but yeah, as you said. Quick pause. And once you have that lane priority, get yourself first tower. You know, and you could see that Militza and Stefan were making sure that they still had control in that bot side. And once they can maintain control of mid-bot, you already have the control top, full map control for Kliktech.
I want to talk about the difference in the mid, though, because it was a big focus on the desk, the Ryze versus Cassiopeia matchup, and it was going to be a skill matchup, as always, but Militza really playing it well. You saw the gold shuffle just a moment ago, and about 2,000 in the lead over the Cassio. That's what's going to happen when you have 4 kills and 0 deaths in the game. Militza does seem like the X factor in this particular one.
Yes, and I touched on the fact that I love the Abyssal Mask. Specifically, it doesn't allow many ways back into the game for the Cassiopeia because you can't go for this big outplay if you still have this massive kind of tanky carry to deal with.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a little difficult for them to fight back into it, but as you pointed out, Misfits, they've come back from deficits before. It's a familiar territory, if not comfortable territory for this team, and you know, you still got to feel that there's a lot of pressure on the #1 seed from the UK scene, facing off against a team that had to qualify through the play-in stage, who honestly, it was so hard to get a fix on Kliktech, even before they had anything to really show us. We're back into game, though, and we'll see if Misfits can find an answer to stop this snowball.
And I think specifically the reason there'd be some pressure on Misfits is that XL just showed up so strong against Kliktech. You now think, okay, Misfits ended up qualifying ahead of XL. They should be able to have at least a somewhat similar showing. Instead, we see Kliktech complete control in the early game. And for now, partly related to draft, of course, but still playing so well, even in those early team fights with the Ryze.
Draft definitely always an interesting fixture of any Kliktech game at Impriatel. Trying to make himself look tasty. Stefan was wetting the wings. All of Misfits are looking to collapse here, minus Shikari. Adina's been able to dodge out quite a lot, though, this game, and he's throwing the bombs down. You can never underestimate the power of the Zillion double bombs, even in a support position. He's not really building a lot of AP, the Ardent Sensor being his first item buy.
I think the big thing for the double bombs is that it allows Varus and Ryze to just absolutely open up on your team if you do get it in the, you know, when you have the rest of your team with you, as you generally should as a support.
Oh, good speed and engage as well. You know, they've got the Zillion speed boost on top of the Cloud Dragon, so these guys can move around the map quite quickly, and Kliktech already seem to be a team that's confident enough to really be able to drag a team like Misfits Academy around, and you can see it here. Sakre on the bottom side, unopposed. You got the Ryze up towards the top. Misfits, they're kind of grouping, but it's hard to answer when you're 5 in the mid lane.
This is the 1-3-1 that we've waited for teams to be able to execute on. Finally, Kliktech, they get into the driver's seat by making sure that some of them are lane priority, but now it's Stefan.
Gotta be careful there. Okay, so it looked like Crossfair and Chrisberg might have had the jump on him, turned it around though.
This is the danger we've seen when some people do try to execute the 1-3-1. They get engaged on too quickly, but you can see Kliktech, all they need to do is not die, and they just win around the map because those lanes are constantly being pushed into, because Gnar just absolutely beats up on the Ornn. And on the other side, Ryze is pulled so far ahead, he should be able to do the same to Cassiopeia.
That's pretty good general advice, though, not dying. I found that to be a good recipe for success in most of my League of Legends games.
It depends. Sometimes if you flash forward as Karthus, it's helpful, but in comes Melitza.
All right, Melitza. He's on a solo mission right now. I don't know if that was advised. There's a teleport coming through, but the rest of the team has short to arrive, and Melitza bit off a little more than he can chew here if he's going to be able to live. The chrono shift is on, and it was all the long con. Let's see if they've got the damage to take anybody out here. Rooting Chrisberg, forcing him to flash away. Shikari on the front line, still being fired down. Meanwhile, just off screen, Stefan takes down his opposite number, and just when you think Kliktech were caught, they clap back.
Yeah, and just beautifully done from them again. You think, okay, Melitza's been caught out, and this is another one of the strengths of the Zilean pick. You have that chrono shift available to you. People can go for these more aggressive engages and know that you have them safely.
Immediate flash there from Special. You've got to respect the Lee Sin kick. Insect might be in this tournament, but he's not the only player that can pull that move off.
Absolutely not, and I think now they can just move towards this dragon.
Another cloud. I mean, normally you think, you want the Infernal, you want the Mountain to try and knock some towers down a little faster. I feel like Kliktech are pretty happy with something that makes them even faster.
Yeah, and I mean, they've been faster around the map. Why not just make that even easier by grabbing yourself that extra bit of move speed? And you know, like Cloud Drake, ever since it's buff, you still have that in-combat move speed, which is very useful for the likes of Ryze and Varus, who want to make sure they can get as much AoE damage down as possible.
Let's talk a little bit about how Misfits can come back into this one right now. Obviously, you mentioned that they have the ability to come back just in general as a team. That's something they're familiar with. They have an Infernal Dragon. It does seem, though, that Kliktech and the 1-3-1 are not going to be as keen to play around the Baron as most teams would in this situation.
What you need from these guys is Misfits need to find an engage, especially if they go for the 1-3-1 onto that 3-man. You need to get the big Ornn ultimate down, you need to get your mass amount of damage you have from Special, from Chrisberg, and just start taking people out. From there, once you force the fight, you can then force objectives, find your way back in.
Well, trying to grab some vision control at the very least, forcing in the mid, but every time they do this, they're going to be losing out on one lane. You see the Gnar, Sakurai continuing, trying to push it down. Here comes the call of the Forge God. Nicholas Senpai pushes back, answers with the Chain of Corruption. Chrisberg stopped for a moment. Still, though, no teleport on the Gnar. This could not be a 5v5 if Kliktech wanted it. The Ryze nowhere to be found as well, and it looks like Misfits are going to muscle in to try and take their first tower of the game, but they're losing an inner for it, and they haven't actually finished the job.
The strength of the 1-3-1. As long as you do not die, your side lanes will naturally push. You can then get towers that way. And you can see now, all they're doing is just maintaining pressure. Misfits have already been forced back, and as they're backing away, Nicholas Senpai knows he can play forward.
Keeps on doing it. Look, Meganar coming in. Here's Sakurai, got a few ticks left. He throws out the boulder. That's just a zoning measure, though. It looks like this tower will fall in the mid shortly. A couple of minions still marching in to try and help it out. But Nicholas Senpai, man, he never runs out of those arrows.
Yeah, and the Summoner's Rift just completely controlled by Kliktech here. You can see how fast they're able to move around. You set up that split push, okay, now we're going to fight in the mid lane. Let's bring the Gnar back up. Beautifully done, and maintaining just this massive lead.
Oh man, and it really is a massive lead. You got to just honestly look at the gold differential comparatively. That's 9K. It keeps on growing steadily for the game. And look at the Gnar. He's Flame Horizon Shikari.
Half of that gold lead, or 3K of that gold lead, I should say, is in the top lane. He is already so far ahead of his opposing number, and you expected that from the draft, but certainly at 25 minutes, the Flame Horizon seems to have come out a little earlier than expected.
Yeah, looks like Misfits Academy trying to force on the fight, but it's Chrisberg that's caught. It's Chrisberg that's deleted, and they're delivering everyone into the fight. Milica goes in solo. Misfits Academy are falling to pieces, and this is the time when a 1-3-1 comp is out fighting you. You know you're in trouble, and wouldn't you know it, Celtic Tiger, they're on the Baron.
Yeah, they can turn around to the Baron. They already have a 10K, and I talked about how far Milica is ahead.
He's styling at this point.
He comfortably 1v1 that Cassiopeia. Special knows it. Gets himself out of there. Okay, yeah, no, we want to keep fighting. Go.
Oh, no. Guys, let's go for Baron. Just kidding. I want kills. Militsa's able to zone back the Cassiopeia, and it looks like they are in full control of this game. 25.5 minutes. What a statement that Kliktech is making this time around. Cassio stuck around special? Turn him to stone? That's not going to stop him for long.
It will stop him enough to save that snake. I think just about slithering away there.
Got nearly turned into a pair of boots.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you probably burnt it out at that point. No good for...
That's why Cassio can't wear boots. Burned. All right, let's take a look at that engage again, how it started.
The original team fight, the double bomb comes through in time, and it's just Varus being given so much free damage and not being able to proc those concussive blows because of the way Kliktech got in front of their Nicola was really important there. From there, it's just simple chase down. You could just tear these people apart. You have such a massive lead.
Yeah, they're just having fun at this point. I mean, it's always possible to throw a game, right? But we've seen Kliktech, when they get in leads, very rarely do they find themselves really giving up on the game. Like, the Origin game kind of back and forth, that's a little bit of an anomaly. But Kliktech show up in so many different ways. This is one of those, we're going to out-macro you, we're going to out-rotate you, we're going to play better than you because we know we can. This is what a well-coordinated team can do. Doesn't matter where they come from.
And I think the important thing here is, looking back at their draft, it's a more aggressive draft, and it's managed to suit them. It means once they get this lead, they can maintain it, they can make sure that they're making the right moves on the Rift, and stay very far ahead. Back to the 1-3-1. It is refreshing to see a team actually able to execute on it, because we talked a lot about it on the desk, and for the first time, Kliktech now showing why it's such a viable strategy.
Another side of this multifaceted team here. Still have to finish off the Nexus, but they're closing in hot. The Rise uncontested up towards the top side. Sakurai on the bottom, continuing to push things out, and it's just inch by inch, systematic destruction of Misfits Academy in this first game.
Yeah, and from here, there's very little Misfits to do. They need to find an engage very soon before they just start to lose these inhib towers. Otherwise, they're just going to be dragged around the map. See, they're trying to look for it, but here it might be.
Okay, forcing the fight. Oh, nice dodge. Eden Priatel once more, and they turn it around. The root under Shikari. Here goes the Lee Sin. He's going to get pushed back. Going to get taken down, but wait, there's more. He's going to get saved by the Chrono Shift, and it's only Shikari and Prosphere falling. Sakurai, Mininar in the middle of the base, and these guys just don't care. They're going to be able to take this one all the way to the end. Militsa might get fired down. The shield is real, and that's going to be it. The triple kill for the Rise. I cannot believe it. Nobody dies there for Kliktech, and they're going to get the ace, get the base. And it's a party portal all the way to Game 1 victory, bringing the minions on the conga line. Down goes the Nexus, and Kliktech, what a hell of a statement in Game 1.
Click-clack gets smacked. These guys look like they were struggling all game from Misfits. Kliktech finally showing up against the UK side in style.
The boys from the Balkans definitely